Hello Internet, my name is Frankie, welcome to the channel, and in today's video we are building a habitat for the Western Lowland Gorilla in Primate Isles. Now, this habitat has actually got a very specific influence, and that is Gorilla Kingdom from London Zoo, ZSL London, whatever you want to call it, and it's just an incredible habitat or enclosure. I was very inspired when I was on my visit there and decided I wanted to try and replicate that in game. Now, this is going to be split into two parts. What you're seeing today is going to be the gorilla habitat, and then there's also some glass viewing areas for animals that are kept more indoors. They are monkey species in the zoo, but we're going to be placing one of our other primates in here as well. So for this video, we're going to be primarily concentrating on the gorillas. What we're going to be doing here is creating the walkway where our guests are going to be able to travel into the main building, and it is also going to be a rather large viewing gallery. I am mainly making this out of wooden pieces. We're going to be sticking to the New World theme just because I really like the planks look of it, and it is fairly similar to what was actually used at the zoo. On the ceiling and the upper parts of the wall, my references did have rectangular shapes cut out of them to let through some natural light, but whilst I could have tried to create that myself using smaller building pieces, I decided to just go with some paw prints as decoration instead. Now we're moving on to the viewing gallery at the front, and we're going to be starting by creating a metal frame using the metal beams, and then we are going to run a glass barrier through the bottom half to actually have it serve as a real barrier. And at the top we are going to extend these beams up and have them at an angle, and then kind of manually place some glass panes in there ourselves. We're also going to be creating some support structures for the roof, and to do that we're using a circular art piece. We're going to just turn it black and sink it into the floor slightly. Then we're going to use a few beams or poles, whatever you want to call them, just rounded pieces of wood that stretch up to the ceiling the appropriate height. We're going to have one at the back in the center of the circle, then either side of that we are going to have some separate columns of wood that will be angled forward slightly, which creates a much stronger support system. This whole viewing gallery and indoor area is actually really close to what London Zoo has at this enclosure in particular, at the zoo. And I am quite happy with how it comes out. But there were some finishing touches that could have been done, like putting zebra pattern on the glass. That's something that is at the zoo, but I couldn't quite figure out how to come up with my own version of that. There could have been more decoration and stuff added to this, but for now I'm going to keep it rather simple, and we're going to dress it up a little bit more in the next video. For today we're going to focus mainly on the structure of this building and the habitat of the gorillas. Now, usually in my videos I would walk you through step by step how I built things, but this is such a long build, it's around 3 hours of footage that has been compiled into this time lapse for you, that I'm going to struggle to talk for the whole thing. So I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it now, a bit of an insight into what I did, and then we'll just pop the rest in time lapse for you to watch in just sit back and relax basically. So there is a inside area for these animals as well, and that is mainly made up of straw and a few climbing frames and whatnot, and it's got a glass viewing gallery so that we can see it from inside this larger structure as well. I also used some wooden beams to break that up to make it look like it's got some frame to it, because viewing galleries are rarely just one big plane of window. They normally are broken up by other structures and stuff to actually show a bit of support for that glass, because a piece of glass that large is incredibly difficult to manufacture, let alone install. So, you know, the frame to these viewing galleries is kind of important for a bit of realism. I'm actually really happy with how this walkthrough area at the beginning turns out. It might be one of my favourite guest orientated builds. It's definitely my favourite viewing gallery so far. I really like it. The path leading to this is fairly simple. I do try to make it bridge over some water, but the more I played about it, the more I felt that it was unnecessary. And ultimately I decided to just have the path on land, as it's going to be connecting to the main roundabout as well. We're going to have a few tiny window bits you can see through if you're a child, I guess. And then for everyone else, you'll be able to see over the barrier near that leads to the viewing gallery anyway, so you don't really need to worry about the bits of glass. The reason that part of the barrier is allowed to be lower is we are going to have this entire habitat surrounded by kind of a moat structure. It's going to be a really steep drop into this water so that the animals hopefully struggle to climb out the other side and therefore can't escape. The barrier that is going to be largely hidden by trees. I don't do that in this episode, but I will be surrounding this whole building with trees and stuff when it is finally finished. That barrier is just going to be the wooden barriers that are in game because, I mean, they're perfect for it. So I'm just going to go with that. And then it's going to shrink down to size to match up with the barrier that we've got by the path that leads to this habitat. The viewing gallery just after the internal area where the animals can sleep and stuff is just going to be made up of the East Asian fence coloured a light brown, and that just allows our guests to feel like they could kind of just step into the enclosure. I don't really want them to do that. There is every chance they could, but I don't want them to. That will be just set behind a moat slightly, which will allow for an excellent view of our animals because there's no glass in between you. It's a lot more open, which is lovely. And for the main habitat itself, where the animals are going to be living and doing all of their daily business. I don't know why I said it like that. They're not business people, are they? But that's going to be quite an open area with a centralized climbing frame. All the climbing structures are going to be right in the middle. I started by building onto some trees and stuff. I then actually popped a couple blueprints in there. I wanted to try and mimic what they have at London Zoo. But what they have at London Zoo is made up entirely of really natural looking pieces of wood, which we don't have that many of in terms of climbable pieces in game. There might be in DLCs, I don't know, but there aren't yet. And I didn't really want it to look really man-made instead. Like, in order to get the shape, make it look like it's made out of logs and stuff. I didn't really want to do that. So what I ended up doing was using a lot of trees instead, because that will count towards climbable areas, and a couple blueprints here and there as well. But the main thing that I wanted to focus on was making sure all of the climbing frames were right in the middle and that you'd get a really nice view of it from the viewing gallery that we built earlier. As for the enrichment items, we're spreading those out as much as possible because we want our animals to be moving and traversing this habitat as much as possible. So spreading things out like that really helps and encourages them to use up the most of their habitat. As for the foliage in this habitat, there are a few little outcroppings of rocks and stuff, especially near the water. I do place quite a few rocks, but for the actual plant life, it's a few really big trees, and then I gather up some plants that I want to copy and paste. We're using some large shrubs, a few smaller plants and stuff, make a little patch, highlight it all, and then copy and paste it around the habitat to get a good ground coverage. This is an excellent way of getting ground coverage for a habitat that's quite large. If you don't want to spend ages placing individual plants, just make a little template like that and copy and paste it around the habitat. It's really quick and easy, and it is quite effective at making a quite packed look to the environment. Now, there really isn't too much left to say about this habitat. It was really a matter of making loads of small adjustments and making sure that everything was dressed up to look nice and pretty. So all I can really say is for you guys to just sit back and enjoy, because this was a really fun project. I really enjoyed it and I'm quite happy with the result. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what I can do with the other side of this building to incorporate another species. Maybe I'll add some exhibit animals as well. And really make this into a really cool building to enter to see these animals. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already in order to see the next part of this build, because it will be posted sometime this week, I think, but potentially next week instead. So yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and maybe subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this appear in your subscription feed. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.
hum.